need you to hear this first before anything else. What they did to you was not okay. The silence, the coldness, the way they walked out like you were nothing, that was not maturity. That was not them doing the right thing. That was cowardice dressed up in a calm voice. And I want you to stop carrying the version of the story where you were somehow too much, too intense, too needy. You were not. You were real. And they could not handle real. Now, here's what I want you to know tonight. Something inside them has cracked open. Not in the pretty way you were hoping for. Quieter than that. Colder at first. And then slowly it becomes unbearable for them. Because the person who left you, who went cold on you, who told everyone, including themselves, that walking away was the grown-up thing to do, they are sitting inside the aftermath of that decision right now, and it is nothing like they thought it would be. There is no peace waiting for them on the other side of losing you. There is a room they cannot decorate, a silence they cannot fill, and they are finally starting to feel it. That is what this reading is about. So take a breath. You have been carrying this for a long time. Tonight, I want you to feel seen. For most of you watching, the avoidant is romantic. An ex, a partner who went cold, a situationship that dissolved without a real ending, without a real goodbye, without giving you the closure you deserved. For a smaller group of you, it is not a lover. It is a parent who went silent, a sibling who stepped back, a best friend who chose distance and never once explained why. If that is your version, stay. Everything I am about to describe fits the same way. The label is the only thing that changes. Avoidance is avoidance, and the pain of being the one who was left behind hits the same whether it was your partner or your mother. Okay, first thing I want you to understand, their grief is not moving the way you might have imagined. You have probably been picturing them broken, sitting somewhere missing you, crying at night, feeling it the way you felt it when they left. They are not there yet. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because I know it is not fair. What I am seeing is that the first stage for them, after they walked away, was relief. Yes, relief. The kind that felt like proof they had done the right thing. They breathed out. They told themselves they had finally handled something hard, and they leaned all the way into that feeling because they needed it to be true. They needed you to be the problem, so they did not have to look at themselves. Then came the second stage, a strange, humming numbness. Not sad, not happy, just this low static where you used to be. So they got busy. They rearranged their whole life. They took on new things, said yes to plans they would normally turn down, filled every corner of the space you used to occupy with noise, with people, with anything that would keep them from feeling it. And here is where they are right now, the crack between stage 2 and stage 3. The numbness is failing them, and they do not have a plan for what comes next, because they genuinely did not believe this stage was coming. They thought they were past it. They thought they had won. They have not won anything. They are about to lose the whole game, quietly, inside their own chest. And they are only just starting to realize it. This next piece may only be for a smaller group of you. A reading like this cannot fit everyone at the same angle. Take it if it lands. Here's what I am being shown. The numbness did not break during some big emotional moment. It did not break during a milestone or an anniversary or when someone brought your name up. It broke over something almost embarrassingly small. A song they were not looking for came on somewhere. A smell they were not expecting. A certain quality of light at a certain time of day. Something slipped past all their defenses without warning, and for one full second, they forgot they had lost you. And then they remembered. And the remembering hit them so hard, it knocked the wind out of them. And they did not cry. That part matters. They just stood there, frozen. And then they went and did something ordinary. Poured a drink, opened their phone, started a task, to get out of the feeling as fast as they could. But too late. The feeling had already logged itself. Their body now knows something their mind has been refusing to let them admit for weeks, maybe months. And listen, if that scene just landed in your chest, that moment right there is the reason you are watching this video tonight. Something in you felt the shift when it happened in them. You felt the wall crack. That was the first honest thing that has happened inside them since they left, and you were the one who felt it first. Now here is what has actually been eroding them underneath all the busyness. It is not the big memory, not the milestone, not the anniversary. It is the disappearance of something so ordinary that they never even named it while it was happening, because they were taking you for granted. Let us just say it. They were taking you for granted. There was a small thing you did, or the two of you did together, that was so woven into their day that they mistook it for their own rhythm, their own life, their own personality. A message from you at a certain time, a pattern for how the evenings ended, a little ritual around waking up, around a meal, around a specific hour of the day. It was so steady, so consistent, that they thought of it the way you think about weather, something that would just always be there. And here is the cruel joke on them. When it stopped, they did not feel it as loss. They felt it as a mild wrongness they could not locate, something being off in a room they could not find. They walked around for weeks thinking their coffee tasted different, or their sleep was off, or the world was a little dimmer somehow, not connecting it to you, because you were oxygen, and they thought oxygen was just how the air felt. It took weeks for them to actually understand what had left, and by the time they understood, they had already been grieving something they had spent months telling themselves they did not want. They did not know you were oxygen until they had to remember to breathe. What is happening in them now, more and more often, is that memory has stopped being something they get to choose. It is arriving without their permission, through their body, through the senses. They have lost control of it. A stranger walks past, wearing something that reminds them of you, and their chest tightens before their brain even catches up. A phrase they used to hear you say comes out of someone else's mouth, and they lose track of the conversation for a full second. They drive past a place the two of you went to, and they do not slow down. They speed up. And the speeding up is the tell, because if it did not matter, they would not have to accelerate away from it. You see what I am saying? This is not them thinking about you the way they can control. This is you refusing to stay in the box they filed you into. And it is exhausting for them because there is no strategy for this. You cannot outplan a memory that lives in your nervous system. You cannot schedule around it. You cannot get busy enough to outrun it. And I know how that sounds to you right now, that while you have been sitting with your grief head on, they have been running from theirs. That is not fair. It has never been fair. But their turn has come. It just took the long way around. This is a shift, and it is a big one, so pay attention. For a long time, their whole emotional response to what happened between you two was defensiveness. If anyone brought your name up, they had a story ready to go, a reason, a framing that made them the one who had to leave, and made the leaving noble or necessary, or at least reasonable to anyone who was listening. They rehearsed that story until they believed it themselves. That story is losing its grip on them right now, and not because someone argued them out of it, not because a friend sat them down and told them the truth, because they cannot keep believing it in private the way they can keep performing it in public. In front of other people, sure, they can still say the lines. Alone, at 3 a.m, the lines do not work anymore. And what is rising up underneath the defensiveness is something they are much less prepared to handle. Shame. Real, specific, uncomfortable shame. Not vague guilt, not a general sense of, I should have done better. Very particular shame about very particular moments. One specific sentence they said to you that they now cannot take back. One specific time they went quiet when you needed one single word from them and they could not give it. The particular way they let this end without ever giving you the conversation you deserved. They cannot say any of this out loud yet. Not to you, not to anyone, but it is running underneath everything they do now. It is the reason they are so much more tired than usual lately. It is the reason certain conversations exhaust them. It is the reason they cannot look at certain photos. Shame is heavy, and they are carrying it now, whether they have admitted it to themselves or not. Okay, now, this part matters, and I need you to hear me carefully. I am not going to sit here and tell you they were simply cruel. I know it feels like that. I know from the outside it looks like they just did not care. But cruelty is not the engine that ran them. Fear is. Fear that was installed in them long before you ever existed in their life. This pattern in them did not start with you. It started in a place where closeness had a cost. Where being fully seen came with consequences they learned to fear before they even had language for what was happening to them. Somebody taught them a very long time ago that letting a person in was dangerous, and they built their whole personality around never being caught out that way again. You did not cause any of this. You triggered a very old alarm. That is not the same thing. And I am naming this now because I know you. Part of you has been quietly asking, on a loop, whether if you had done one thing differently, said one thing differently, been 1 small % different, they would have stayed. The answer is no. And I am not being harsh with you. I am setting you free. The answer is no, not because you were not enough. The answer is no, because they were not ready to be met. And being met by you was the exact thing their nervous system was engineered from childhood to run away from. Here is what is actually new for them right now, and this is the important part. They are beginning to understand, for the first time in their whole life, that the thing they always thought of as their strength, the ability to walk away from people and feel nothing, was never strength. It was a survival mechanism running on autopilot. It was a scared version of them making all the calls. That realization on its own does not fix anything. Do not let anyone tell you it does. But it changes what they can never again honestly tell themselves. And that specific loss of self-deception is one of the changes that is permanent. They cannot go back to the version of them that got to feel proud of leaving. That door is closed. This is the piece I most want you to understand, because this is how deep it goes. This is why I said in the title that losing you has changed them forever. I meant that literally. The person who walked away from you had an entire identity built on one sentence. And the sentence was, I do not need anyone the way other people need people. That sentence was their pride. It was how they explained themselves to themselves. It was what let them feel safe and separate and somehow above the messy, ordinary way that other humans love each other. They looked at people who needed each other and thought they were free from all that. Losing you has made that sentence unspeakable inside their own head. They cannot say it anymore without hearing it as a lie. Because they need you. Not in a movie way, in the small, stubborn, quiet way that will not go away no matter how many things they schedule to bury it. They need the version of you that they used to be able to reach. They need the person who saw them and stayed anyway. They need the one person who did not require them to perform. And the fact that they need it at all breaks the whole story they had built about who they were. This is what people actually mean when they say a loss has changed someone forever. It is not the sadness that changes you. Sadness passes. What changes you is the collapse of a self-image. They cannot go back to being the person who believed they did not need this. That door is closed behind them, permanently. There is no version of the future where they get to walk through it again. That person they used to be, that untouchable, above it all, does not need any one version of them, is gone. You did not kill that person. That person was already a story they were telling themselves. But your absence is what finally exposed it as a story, and they cannot unread the ending now. Okay, this is the part that has actually started to frighten them, and I want you to feel this one because you have earned it. For a long, long time, some quiet corner of their mind was operating on an assumption they never even said out loud to themselves. The assumption was that you would still be reachable. Not right away, not easily, but eventually. They believed, without ever admitting it, that if they ever wanted to come back to the doorway, you would still be somewhere near it, waiting, available, still hoping. They are starting to notice you are not near the doorway anymore, and nobody had to tell them. They can feel it. They can feel it in the temperature of the silence. They can feel it in the way you have not tried to reach them either. They can feel it in the fact that when they try to picture you now, they cannot quite picture you waiting for them anymore. They keep trying to hold the image, and the image will not hold. And that specific pain, that is what is rewiring them right now, not the loss of you. The loss of the imagined future where you were still there for them on some level, still an option, still a safety net they could reach for one day when they were finally ready. That safety net has quietly disappeared, and they are only just noticing it is gone. You know what that is? That is you moving on. Whether you feel like you have or not, your energy has moved. Your center of gravity has shifted, and they can feel it from wherever they are because you were connected. You still are in the sense that the loss registers, but the connection is not pointed at them anymore. It is pointed at your own life. Sit with that, because you did that. Nobody did that for you. This next scene may only be for a smaller group. Take it if it fits, let it pass if it does not. I am being shown a very specific kind of night they have been having lately. Not every night, but often enough that it has started to unsettle them. It happens late. Everyone else is asleep or unreachable. The distractions have finally run out. There is nothing left to scroll, nothing left to drink, nothing left to open. And in that hour, something rises in them that they cannot outrun with productivity, with a drink, with company. And in that hour, they have started doing something they would not admit to anyone, ever. They open something of yours, an old message thread, a photo, something adjacent, a page, a profile, something that lets them get close without actually touching. They do not respond. They do not send anything. They do not act. They just look. And then they close it, and they lie there in the dark. And then the shame of having looked stays with them into the next morning. So the next day they compensate. They are extra composed, extra fine, extra busy, extra over it in front of anyone who might be watching. But the night comes back, and so does the looking, and it is starting to feel like a habit they cannot break. If this fits, you already know. You do not need me to tell you. If it does not, let it move past you. Okay, now I need to be really honest with you, because I love you too much to let you walk out of this reading with a story that is going to hurt you later. Yes, they are changed. Everything I have described tonight is real, and it is happening. The identity collapse, the shame underneath the defensiveness, the memory returning through their senses, the loss of the imagined future where you were still available to them. All of it is permanent. They cannot unknow it. They cannot go back. They will never again be able to honestly tell themselves that leaving you brought them peace. That specific lie is no longer available to them for the rest of their life. That is a real, lasting change. But hear me on the next part, and do not skip over it because this is where people get hurt. What has changed in them is what they understand. What is not yet changed is how they behave when things get uncomfortable. Understanding and behavior are two completely different systems inside a person, and avoidant patterns live in the behavior system, not the understanding one. So a person can genuinely, deeply, painfully know they were wrong, and still not yet be capable of showing up any differently the next time closeness scares them. I am not being cynical. I am being accurate. I am protecting you. Real internal change is one thing. Being ready to actually be in a relationship as a changed person is a second, much slower, much harder thing. And you have every single right to want proof of the second before you spend one more ounce of yourself on the first. Do you hear me? You do not owe anyone your open arms just because they finally figured out what they had. Understanding does not automatically earn access. Access is earned through consistency over time. Now I want to come back to you, because this whole reading is actually about you. It always was. While everything I just described has been happening inside them, something has been happening inside you that they cannot even see yet, and honestly, cannot fully catch up to. You stopped translating yourself for them. You stopped shrinking the parts of you that made them nervous. You stopped waiting to be chosen by someone who was clearly, obviously, painfully struggling to choose. And you did not do it as a strategy. You did not do it to make a point. You did it because you finally ran out of the version of yourself who could keep doing the other thing. That version of you is gone, and she is not coming back. He is not coming back. They are not coming back. That version of you served a purpose, held the line for a long time, hoped for a long time, forgave for a long time. And then something in you said, no more. And you listened. That is what I need you to be proud of tonight. The you they walked away from does not exist anymore. Not because you are pretending or performing, because you actually, genuinely grew past it. And the version of you they are now trying to reach from a distance, in secret, at night, that version of you is not standing where they last saw you. You have moved. That is why any return, if it comes, cannot look the way they are picturing it. They would be reaching for someone who is no longer at that address, and whether they can find you now depends entirely on whether they are willing to travel, not physically, inwardly, the distance it would take to meet the person you have become. And I am telling you honestly, that is a much longer walk than they realize. You did not just survive this, you outgrew it. Those are not the same thing, and I want you to feel the difference tonight. So here is what I want you to walk out of this reading holding. They are not the same person who left you. That is true. Something has been permanently rearranged inside them, and they cannot put it back the way it was. The peace they thought was waiting for them on the other side of losing you did not exist. It was never going to exist, and they are living inside that discovery right now, and it is not a discovery they can undo. But what has changed in them is what they understand. Not yet, not reliably, how they behave. Those two things live in different rooms of a person, and the second room takes much longer to renovate. So if anything reaches you from them in the coming weeks, a message, a sideways contact, a mutual friend suddenly bringing them up, receive it slowly. Watch. Do not translate for them. Do not fill in the gaps in what they are saying with what you wish they were saying. Let their actions do the talking that their words used to do too easily. And whatever they do or do not do, I need you to hear this. The most important thing that has happened in this entire story is not happening inside them. It is happening inside you. You have crossed a line you cannot uncross. You have become someone who no longer needs to be chosen in order to feel whole. That is not a consolation prize. That is not the sad version of winning. That is the actual event. That is what this whole chapter was for. Whether they ever arrive at your door, and whether you decide to open it, those are two separate questions, and both of them belong to you now, not to them, not anymore. Be gentle with yourself this week. If a memory arrives, let it move through you and out. If a message comes, breathe before you answer, because you have earned the right to answer on your own timing. And trust that what is real does not need to be forced into the light. It surfaces on its own. It always does. If any part of this landed for you, especially the sensory moment that broke the numbness, or the late night looking, or the identity that is quietly collapsing inside them, Tell me down in the comments which part was yours. Not all of it is meant for everyone tonight, and I really do want to know what fit and what did not. If this reached you at the right time, a like helps it find the next person who needs to hear this exact message tonight. And subscribing means the next reading finds you without you ever having to go looking for it. Take care of your heart. I will see you in the next one.